Now it's time to bring on our special guest. He is the executive director of the Jet Award Foundation, former radio host and TV reporter, host of Big Red Wrap-Up and Severe Reaction and the Let It Fly show. Mr. Michael Severe, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, Adam. How are you, man?
Dude, life is good. Life will be great if we win this Saturday. But let's go backwards before we go forwards. All right. Give me your thoughts overall. Let's start with the topic nobody's talking about at all, the offensive line. Their performance so far, what could we realistically expect, or what would you like to see going forward starting Saturday?
Well, I blame that loss on the coaches. I know that players go out and play, but you're only as good as your preparation. I don't think they were prepared very well for that game. I thought the play calling offensively, starting with the first drive, was poor. I think you needed to have a similar plan that you had to Maryland, where you came out and you ran the ball and you established it against a team that had given up 255 yards passing the week before to Purdue. So I blame it on them. Yes, the offensive line, of course, obviously is struggling. It certainly hurts to lose your, two starters during a game. At the same time, I think this team has to play a certain way to protect those tackles mostly. Mm-hmm. And the way it is they got to run the ball. They got to throw more screens. They need quick developing crossing routes. I mean, bang eight is fast. A Y stick is quick. The ball's got to come out of his hands. He's got to do a better job of getting out of his hands. But I think it comes back to, and I think Coach Rule has said as much in many ways by putting his coaching staff out there, that they did not prepare well or well enough for Minnesota, a team that had beaten you 5 times in a row, where you hadn't won since 2015, and PJ Fleck loves to beat you. They did not take it seriously enough and prepare well enough to beat that team.
All right, a lot of questions being asked about Donovan Raiola right now and the job he's doing as the coach of the offensive line. I know it all goes hand in hand. Rule said the backs gave up 3 sacks, and then a couple guys didn't run the right route. Obviously, some of it's on the offensive line as well when I'm referring to the 9 sacks. We also haven't ran the ball as a team. I know Emmett leads the Big Ten in rushing. He also is the only player in America that leads his team in, rushes, catches, and there's one more. It's like 3 categories. He's the only player in America that leads his team in all 3 of the categories. I just named 2 of them. But as a team, we're not able to rush the ball as effectively as we would like. So talk to me. Just give me your thoughts on Donnie as well.
Yeah, if I was going to hold anything against Donovan Raiola, I think it would be the lack of some of the development from some of the younger guys. Tyler Knack gets in there, and I didn't even think of Tyler as a guard, but they had him in as guard. And I think that he really struggled with communication and where he needed to be and just playing the position. And that goes back a lot to both Donovan Raiola and the other guys who are working with the offensive line. I look at a lot of the young guys who are in there, Machachek, who I thought was coming along, who we have not seen. I'm surprised that he didn't go in the game when they were having problems with Kanak. That's the one thing I probably would put on Raiola more than anything else, is that I just don't think the young guys seem to be developing well enough, especially when you have tackles. And a guy like Corcoran, who's been through all these different injuries, who's played all these games and has been okay, but you haven't been able to develop one of your redshirt freshmen, third-year sophomores into being able to take that job when a guy goes down. Prohaska, who's been through all of those surgeries, and we know how Gatula has struggled. You don't have a young guy that you've been developing to go in there. So that's what I would critique the most about, is why are they not developing all these offensive linemen they brought in? Why aren't they being able to play when the guys in front of them struggle? That's the biggest question I'd have for Donovan.
I think that's a great point. Some folks are like, oh, he's not a great recruiter. I'm like, really? Are you sure? Grant Bricks, Preston Tamua, some of these other guys, I think he's actually recruited pretty well.
Yep.
But when Rule stands up there and says, I forget which press conference he was, the young guys aren't ready. You look at who is playing, it's basically transfer portal guys and guys who were here when he got here, and Justin Evans at center. That's, I guess, Henry Lutovsky as well. It's really 2 guys. Everybody else was already here, or they are transfer portal guys. So I think that's a fair point. I'm not going to lie. When I saw this on social media, this just hurt my feelings. Grant Segrin, who was here in the spring, and Will actually mentioned him at a spring press conference, was named the right tackle of the week on the national PFF Team of the Week as the highest graded right tackle in all Division I college football. He had a grade of 82.3. As most people know, Jake and I, we love PFF, and we never, ever question any of their grades, but there that is. All right, talk to me, Dylan Raiola. Give me your thoughts on Dylan Raiola. Maybe the first 4 games versus the past 3? Because he hasn't had the same production the last 3, and then a season as a whole as well.
Yeah, this is a season-long issue that I have with him, is that I don't know what it is, but there's something about his form, whether it's his feet or his arm slot or what, that's not allowing him to be accurate down the field. He is a very accurate quarterback at 14 and under. That's the mark that we go to long passes once you go over 15. And he is one of the more inaccurate passers in all the Big Ten in those throws. He missed 2 touchdown passes against Minnesota, probably be enough to win the game. Missed them both to Dane Key. If you can't drop the ball in the bucket on a fade, then I don't know what to say about who's been working with you, who's been training you, what training you've been doing. So he hasn't been able to do that. That's my biggest concern about Raiola. More than some of his processing when he's in the pocket, is that if he can't throw the deep ball, and they know he can't throw the deep ball, then think about how they're going to crowd those guys on the underneath routes. And it's going to make it even more difficult to get guys open. So whatever's wrong with that, he needs to get that fixed. And then after that, before the snap, we were told he's a genius. He knows how to do all these things. Well, there's too many times where you see the guy he's responsible with in the pressure where he is not, whatever reason, either compensating for that by shifting the line or moving himself out of the pocket to get away from it. So that concerns me too. But more than anything else, as a guy who was not a great quarterback, I do know this, that if you throw the ball enough routes in reps in camp, you're going to make the throw. You're going to get good at it. You throw it 10,000 times, you'll get at it. You put a bucket in the end zone and you throw it up and the ball's got to go in the bucket. Do it 10 times in a row every day. You're going to get better at it. I don't know what's going on, why he can't do that, but he needs to fix that, especially going against some of these teams that know what the problem is now and they're going to crowd those wide receivers.
I think you make a fair point because I watch him throw. His feet aren't great.
Nope.
His arm slot isn't great. I played quarterback, doesn't make me an expert. I played baseball through 95 in high school, doesn't make me an expert, but I spent a lot of my life throwing, so I have a basic understanding at least of how things should look. His fundamentals, they're not great. And I apologize, but it is what it is. When it comes to Patrick Mahomes type crazy throws, he does those halfway decent. I wonder, and again, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. That's just what came into my head. I wonder if there's a little bit more of a subconscious, or maybe conscious, but probably subconscious mental focus on that rather than the basics and fundamentals, and that's going to make a huge. This dude could throw the deep ball physically. He's just not executing it. Okay.
Right. And I don't blame. And this is a systematic generational issue. You know, it happened when Steph Curry started shooting threes from 40 feet away. Everybody else tried to do it as well. And now Patrick Mahomes is doing this. And you see all these guys coming up doing the same thing. But in the end, football is so fundamental. And you know it's blocking and tackling. But when it comes to being a quarterback, you know your feet have to be in the right place. I don't care how strong you are. I don't care what you are in terms of arm strength. The slot's got to be good for the throw you're making. And for whatever reason, he's not doing that. And I know that there are a lot of people around the program that are unhappy. I just don't know what they can say because you certainly don't want to lose him because you know he has all this potential. But at the same time, you got to coach him hard. You got to yell. You got to get in his face. You got to make sure he does it right because that's what everybody else is getting. Dylan's got to get the same thing.
I would agree with that. So I played with some guys who would play at the Patriots. And they would come into our locker room after having been with the Patriots, and they'd be like, Bill Belichick yells it. And this, I know, everybody's going to look at this differently now. You got to keep in mind, this was 10, 15 years ago while they were still playing and winning Super Bowls. But he'd already won like 5 or 6 at the time, Brady. Dude, Bill Belichick yells at Tom Brady more than anyone else in the room. And there were executives that I would talk to later on. They said because Brady would let Bill yell at him like that, everybody else had to pay that much more attention. Rather than special treatment, he was the example. All right, you brought up, by the way, did you just blame the demise of the NBA on Steph Curry? Is that what I just heard you say?
I blame the demise of high school basketball on Steph Curry. If you go to high school basketball games, which I'm sure you will be going, you're going to see a lot of kids launching it from the logo. It's ridiculous.
All right, man. I love to throw that stuff out there. All right. You said blocking and tackling. The struggles, Rule was you can't be leaving your feet. You can't be diving when you're trying to tackle. What do you see from Nebraska when it came to the inability to stop the run game? And Maryland, they only ran for 130 yards, but they were dead last in the Big Ten and only averaged 93 yards a game rushing, and then they bumped it up to 130 versus us. So why are we not able to be more stout in the run game and better at tackling consistently?
You know what's interesting about talking about the overall yardage, but go away from that and just go from long runs. So Maryland had not had any long runs, nothing over 20-plus yards, right? They get one really early against Nebraska. Same thing true for Minnesota. I think they had one, and they got one really early. I think Nebraska, in general, plays good run defense, but as you know, it's only the mistake of one guy that can cause that 71-yard thing, right? So the 71-yard run, Judy, instead of staying to the play side, he decides he's going to go, I don't know, commando and go inside. Well, when he does that, that means that that linebacker needs to get over the top. Well, Watson Trent's not that fast, couldn't get over the top. Then that puts you pressure on Buford. Now you got to get there and make it. He hesitates. Now you got a long run, right? It all comes back to everybody doing their job. And I think if they do their job, even though they're not stout, even though not as big as that 2005 defensive line that you were a part of, even if they're not that big, still, if they all do their job, I think they'll be pretty good because the system has been proven to be sound over years. But too many times when we go back and we watch these tapes, especially leading up to Big Red Wrap-Up on Tuesdays, and you watch the breakdown, you go, okay, that one guy, why is he where he is? Why are they not boxing this? Why are they spilling this when everybody else is boxing it? It seems like there's something being lost in communication about defense. And is that on Butler? I don't know. But, you know, you watch it, it's many times it's one guy making one mistake, which leads to the big play.
Well, if it's consistent communication issues, the offensive line has had consistent communication issues. The defense, as you just articulated, consistent communication issues. That comes from coaching, as you pointed out. I will say that 05 defensive line, we were a little oversized. Our smallest defensive lineman was Jay at 275. I was like a fat 290, man. Yeah. Like we were oversized.
I talked to Titus Adams yesterday. He was sitting at 305 by his senior year.
Yeah.
You guys were big. You guys were big. But, you know, and you had 50 sacks and you were athletic too. But the thing about it is you also had been playing together, you know, for that point for 3 and then the next year for 4 years together. And I think that's a big part of it. There's a lot of guys in there who got their first snaps or first real true number one snaps this year. And I don't know, it just hasn't clicked as a unit, I don't think.
So if we're going to talk about transfer portal, can I bring up Indiana at this point, or is that not fair?
Yeah, I mean, they've done an amazing job. They're not the only ones.
Yeah.
They're not the only ones. Look at Arizona State. You know, if you want to talk about a guy who's done an incredible job, look at Kenny Dillingham and look how he's going in there. You know, when you go in to Texas and you take a Texas player and you almost beat Texas with that player, it shows you what transfer portal can do. I like what he's doing. I love the fact that Signetti not only did he bring in guys from James Madison, but look at some of the other transfers. They're all guys that whatever level they played at, Conference USA, Sun Belt, they were, you know, first or second team guys from those levels. So he's bringing them in, putting them into their culture, a word I know people don't like to hear, but it's important, puts it in their culture, and that's why they win. Listen, I grew up a Penn State fan. I think you know that. I would have loved to have Sindeggity take over there. I would have loved for him to take that job because I'd like to see Penn State do well again. He made the right decision in the state of Indiana, I'm sure. But I like that guy. I like his attitude. And I like the fact that he's a really good evaluator of talent and potential. And that's what you have to have at this job.
You're so right about evaluator and potential and developing. Man, we've had a couple of, we have had a couple of swings and misses on the offensive line in the portal in the past couple of years. And those are things that you can't have. And you make a good point. Because Curt Cignetti has made every other coach's job in America just that much harder because he's done it that well, that quickly. But you point out it wasn't just him. It's Arizona State. There's a couple other schools. So it can be done. All right, my man, last question for you. Oh, and it's interesting because you go back to the Michigan game, talk about long touchdown runs we allowed. So it seems to be, it happens every game. And I've sat in about 4 billion defensive meetings where the defensive coordinator is like, all right, let's take out the big runs. You gave up 53 yards rushing this game. Put in the big runs. It was like 250. And they go, those runs count. You can't just disregard them. And those are defensive coordinators' nightmares, along with really fast quarterbacks. All right, last question. Give us some keys to the Northwestern game, and who do you have winning?
Well, my first key is simple. You know, catch the interceptions that Preston Stone's going to throw to you. Preston Stone, no matter where he's been, has been a quarterback that's had a lot of turnover-worthy plays. He threw 3 to Purdue that they all dropped. Catch him. When they throw him to you, catch him. He was going to give you some opportunities. My biggest key, and I know it's silly because people don't like when you compare football to war, but as an Army guy, it's time to fix the bayonets, man. It's not about taking a shotgun and shooting at somebody. It's now about taking a simple knife, attaching it to a rifle, and making people bleed. I know that sounds horrible, but when they ask the question of what makes grass grow in the Army, it's blood that makes the grass grow. It's punching people in the face. They have been too finesse and too many times getting pushed around and bullied by other teams. Do some bullying. Finally do some of that. Come out and run the ball down their throat. When they bring in that big fullback, which Northwestern will do, knock him on his freshman ass. You have to be more physical. I'm tired of watching Nebraska fall off of guys when they're trying to make tackles high and diving at people's ankles. Knock people down. Win at the point of attack. It's not a hard game, as we've been saying. It's blocking and tackling, and it is actually making the other guy hurt. They're not doing that enough. They need to knock some people down.
Dude, I love everything you just said. And I've never heard the term fix the bayonets. Can I steal that and use it at some point?
You can have. We all go through the training and basic training.
Dude.
Fix bayonets.
Blood is what makes grass grow. I am stealing the heck out of that for the future, man. Oh, did you give a prediction? Who you got winning?
Oh, yeah. I picked Nebraska to win. So I always go with my numbers, and my numbers say like around 27.8 to 17.9. So I'm taking 27-17.
All right. I'll take that. All right. I appreciate it, Michael. Thanks for the time.
No problem, man. Thank you.